Story 1. About a week ago, there was a raffle at my sister's school, and the winner received a $100 prepaid gift card that could be used anywhere. The tickets were $5 each or 5 for $20. I only bought one, while this woman bought 5, and I ended up winning the gift card. After picking up the gift card and talking to my sister and parents for a few minutes, I stepped out of the gym to get a drink at the vending machine. That's when Karen came up to me. Karen said, "Hey, could you give me that gift card? I'm short on money, and my son really needs it tomorrow." I replied, "No, I'm sorry," and then stepped around her and started walking back to the gym. She hustled right in front of me, stopping me, and said, "I told you I need it, right?" I responded, "Yes." She then said, "So, pass it here," opening her hand and sticking it out. I said, "No, it's mine. I won it. If you're short on money, you shouldn't have dropped $20 into a raffle," and then stepped around her again. That's when she grabbed my arm, screaming, "Give it here, or I'm going to call the constable and say you're assaulting me." I said, "Go right ahead. There's a camera right there." Her face went completely red because her plan fell apart. She told me to go to heck and stomped off. Some people are just terrible, right? Did she really threaten me with the school constable when I refused to hand over what was rightfully mine? Reading all these stories, I really dislike how some people's go-to move is to cry and play the victim when they don't get what they want. If I were in that situation, I'd be calling the constable on Karen. The audacity of that woman to physically grab me and then fake cry that she was being assaulted is outrageous. I'd be teaching her a lesson she wouldn't forget, giving her a taste of her own medicine. Story 2. This didn't happen to me, but to a friend of mine, and I'm recounting the details as he told me. My friend is a furry, and at the time, he was attending Midwest Furfest. There are a ton of fun activities at the convention, and most of them are family-friendly. However, like any other geeky convention, people will hold room parties in their hotel rooms that are not part of the official program and are not the responsibility of the convention itself. Very often, these room parties are gatherings of friends or centered around specific social groups. For example, there are furries of color parties. Sometimes, there are parties of a more adult nature. These parties are private functions, and the person paying for the suite has complete liberty to choose who is allowed inside and who isn't, especially if it's a gathering between friends. Flash forward to Saturday evening, the biggest night of the convention in terms of social events and room parties. My friend was hosting a room party for gay men in his suite. The attendees were all legal adults, mostly in their late 20s or early 30s. Nothing too crazy was going on. It was just a bunch of men together, with colorful discussions and a bit of flirting happening from time to time. At some point early in the evening, they heard a knock on the door. My friend slightly opened it to see a kid no older than 15 standing outside. My friend said, "Hi, can I help you?" The kid asked, "Can I come in?" My friend said, "No, this is a private party. It's not part of the convention. I'm sorry." He then closed the door and returned to entertaining his guests. About 15 minutes later, there was another knock at the door. This time, my friend's roommate answered and found the same kid, but now he was with his father. The roommate said, "Yes." The father said, "My son came here earlier and was refused entry. Why?" The roommate began to explain. "Well, yes, but..." The entitled dad stopped him, saying, "Is there a specific reason why my son can't attend this event?" At this point, my friend intervened and said, "Sir, this is a room party. It's not part of the official program. Plus, your son is a minor, and everyone in here is a grown man in their 30s. It would be extremely inappropriate." The entitled dad was not listening. He said, "Don't give me that. We paid full price for an attendance pass, so I expect my son to enjoy this convention to the fullest. Let him inside this room right now." My friend told him, "But that's what I'm telling you? This is not covered by the convention ticket. It has nothing to do with." The dad interrupted, saying, "But this party was advertised downstairs in the lobby. Are you discriminating against my son?" My friend explained, "The board downstairs advertises a lot of private room parties. It's a convention thing. People organize gatherings among friends and social groups because they're all in the same spot for the weekend. That doesn't mean it has anything to do with a convention. Now, please leave. We've told you more than once that your son is not welcome here." My friend then ushered the dad and his kid out and closed the door. Everyone thought the story was over, but sometimes entitled people are petty. Around 11:30 p.m., there was a much stronger knock at the door. My friend opened it to find hotel security and a police officer. My friend asked, "What's going on?" Hotel security said, "Sir, we've got a problem of illegal activity taking place in this room. We'd like to do a quick checkup." My friend was flabbergasted, but let the cop and security personnel in. Of course, they found nothing weird going on. My friend asked, "Can I at least know what this was about? This was very distressing." Hotel security said, "A man came to us earlier and said that your party's guests were doing drugs and committing acts of gross indecency where other people, minors, could see them." My friend realized this was likely the dad and explained how the dad tried to force his minor son into a room full of grown adult males and how they repeatedly told him to leave. Hotel security apologized, and my friend got a partial refund on his room to make up for the intrusion. No more problems occurred from then on. He doesn't know if anything happened to the man and his kid. Wow, guys, what a jerk move that was, right? My son isn't allowed in your private party, so I'll call the cops and make up lies. Seriously, what kind of parents would leave their underage kid with a bunch of strangers? If I were the dad, as soon as I heard, "Oh, this is a private party full of people in their 30s, I would have said, "Oh yeah, you're not going to this party, young man?" I definitely would not be calling the cops, making a huge scene, and demanding they let my underage son join this party. How can some parents be so irresponsible? Story 3. I saw a public freakout recently that reminded me of something that happened when I was a hostess in my early 20s at a steakhouse. A family of 4 came in, and when I sat them, the mom, who we'll call Karen, wanted to move to an area where no tables were open. I told her she could wait back up front, and we'd seat her when one of the tables opened. The woman insisted on standing right by the bus station so she could view the people sitting in her desired area, also known as her table. The 4 of them were in the way of guests and servers, but Karen did not notice. She was too busy staring daggers at the people eating, probably thinking it would make them eat faster. I went to the manager, who tried to move her, but to no avail. Finally, we let them stay because we noticed a couple in a booth packing up their food. I checked in a few minutes later to see if the table had left yet, and was dismayed to see they had ordered dessert and coffee. Karen was still standing there, watching them. The kids were bored and running up and down the wheelchair ramp. I asked Karen again to move back to the waiting area as she was blocking the servers, and her kids were an accident waiting to happen. She then loudly asked the whole restaurant when her table would be ready and pointed right at the couple sipping on their coffee, knowing we were talking about them. The couple just looked at us and smiled. That's when it hit me they were not leaving on purpose. Karen realized this as well and got very angry. She yelled at me that they were holding her booth hostage and that we should kick them out. I told her we would not ask anyone to leave until they were ready. I watched in horror as this woman marched up to the couple and screamed, "You are done here. This is my table, so pay the darn bill and go." The couple smiled sweetly and said, "We just got our coffee and dessert. We're not leaving anytime soon." Karen continued screaming, "Then take it to go. We are hungry, and you are in our booth. You've been here long enough." The couple told her, "This is our booth. It's not yours until we leave." Karen raged insults at them until the manager came rushing up to help. He tried to intervene, but he could not be heard over her screaming. The woman screamed about her starving children and how they were going to die if they didn't get food in the next 5 minutes. Meanwhile, the couple kept their cool, nibbling their desserts and stirring their coffee at a slow speed. Finally, the manager had enough and told the woman to get out. Hearing that, she was utterly floored that we were asking her to leave and not the couple. She picked up an empty dessert plate from their table and chucked it across the room, where it hit a wall and smashed into pieces. The manager screamed for someone to call 911. I remember trying to hide my smile from the people around me. What adult acts like this? The woman was in her 40s, for crying out loud. There were a ton of open booths, just not in that area. Karen's husband appeared, grabbed her by the sleeve, and started pulling. She let him lead her toward the front door while continuing to yell insults at us. She called my manager a loser, mocking his career choice and saying he'd never amount to anything in life. She then told me I was plain, going nowhere, and worthless. After they left, I went to the back for a while to hide. I needed to get away from people. When I returned, the server of the couple ran up to me, saying the couple left but wanted to talk to me. They felt bad about how that woman acted. They saw her watching them and being so rude, so they decided to take their time to mess with her. They didn't think she would react like that. They waited a few minutes to talk to me, but thought I went home and asked the server to give me this as an apology. He handed me a $100 bill. It was a terrible night, but it kind of made me feel better. It's not every day a customer acknowledges when they've made your life miserable. Thankfully, Karen was never seen again. Guys, that's the exact lesson she needed to be taught. I would have done the same thing if I were in that couple's shoes. With that said, though, the couple really did the section a favor. Imagine having her as a guest. Her kids would probably be running wild, grabbing food off people's tables, making messes, and you know for sure Karen would have left without leaving a tip. So yeah, good on that couple for teaching Karen a lesson. Story 4. This happened about 7 years ago. While I worked in the same building, I was not a custodian. I was about 19 or 20 when I worked in a hospital's food service department as a food service aide. Since the hospital was small, we were the only food option available in the building aside from a vending machine on the 4th floor. We had a small cafeteria, and the kitchen was responsible for making food for both the hotline in the cafeteria and the food for patient rooms. We were always understaffed and ran ragged all the time. I worked as a dishwasher, a cook in the cafeteria, and during lunch and dinner shifts, I delivered food to patient rooms. Because I worked in the food service department, I never got mistaken for a custodian, thanks to different uniforms. My department wore ugly green uniform shirts, black uniform pants, hairnets, a black chef hat, and black shoes. Custodians wore bright blue polos, black pants, and black shoes. 9 times out of 10, they either had a cleaning cart with them or some kind of cleaning supply. Trust me, this is all important. I was used to getting ordered around by nurses because of diet sheets and having to deal with irate patients getting beef or chicken broth after surgery. It was all part of being at the bottom of the totem pole. However, patients or their families were most of the time very nice and happy to see us since we were bringing food. But on this particular day, I was in a foul mood. An entitled nurse was threatening to call my boss if I didn't hand over extra sandwiches for her and her crew, even though we weren't allowed to do that. It was late, and I was running behind on serving patients their dinner. I was on the 1st floor and about to get another food cart to go to the intensive care unit when I felt a harsh tap on my shoulder. Enter Karen. She said, finally, do you know how long I've been calling the nurses' station for you people? I was confused and said, I'm sorry, were you trying to get a hold of food service? Karen said, no, I've been calling for you. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? Back then, I wasn't very good with people. I used to run away from conflict, but thanks to this place, I was growing a bit of a backbone due to the staff. Because she caught me in a bad mood, I probably had a, what do you want, look on my face. I said, I'm sorry, how can I help you? Karen said, my grandma has been waiting for someone to clean her room. I've been paging the nurses' station over and over again, but they won't call someone. I would have felt sorry for her had she been nicer, but I knew this problem well. The nurses of that floor were entitled and horrible. Many had gotten fired for improper care of patients. It got better once I left, but back then, this was a common complaint. Since she was being rude, I didn't feel like giving her a fake smile and taking her complaints seriously. The woman had an aura that screamed, I'm better than you, and I personally can't stand that. I said, I'm sure they called for someone. If you wait, I'm sure. She interrupted me, saying, no, I'm done waiting. Get off your lazy rear and do your job. You serve the public, so you will listen to what I tell you. At this point, I realized what she was talking about. I said, oh, you must think I'm a custodian? I'm in food service. Karen screamed, stop making excuses and go clean the room. There's pee everywhere. And while you're at it, get me your manager. You are terrible at your job. I said, ma'am, you need to keep your voice down. I will go get someone from. She interrupted again. Are you really arguing with me right now? You work in this hospital, and that means you serve me. Now do what I tell you. We went back and forth for a good 10 minutes, prompting my supervisor to come to the floor. He wondered why I was taking so long to pick up the cart. As he got off the elevator, he saw me with Karen. I could almost see the urge to turn back and run into the elevator in his eyes. Karen turned to see him and said, are you this guy's manager? The supervisor said, yeah, how can I help you? Karen said, I want him fired. He's lying and saying he won't clean my grandma's room. looking confused. The supervisor looked to me as if wanting to know what happened. I mouthed silently, "Help me, she's insane." My supervisor told her, "Ma'am, this person is not a custodian. Now, please keep your voice down, or I will call security." Karen said, "How dare you? This man has lied to me and tried to assault me. What kind of place is this?" The supervisor told Karen that I was a food service aide who likely had to get food for her grandma and other patients, that the food was getting cold, and to please leave me alone to do my job. This apparently angered her more as she began to yell in his face. The supervisor told me to go to the kitchen and ask one of the other aides to finish delivering food. I found out later that she was escorted off the property by security and was blacklisted from the hospital. She didn't take this well as the police were called twice afterward. Why am I not shocked the police were called twice? Guys, banning Karen from anywhere never goes well. I'm surprised she didn't threaten to sue the place either. This person comments, "The poor family? I can only imagine she was trying to strong-arm her way to win brownie points, but they just got embarrassed instead." So, my roommate was stealing my food and not only admitting it, but apparently bragging about it to my other roommates, calling me a pushover. I didn't want to participate in whatever they thought they were doing, especially since I'm moving away in 2 months, but I do want my food. Today, they were sitting in the kitchen chatting when I came in, took my meatballs from the fridge, and licked them one by one while maintaining eye contact with the thief. I then licked several other items, spit into my milk, and so on. The girl looked at me utterly disgusted. Eventually, she said, "Are you mental?" I calmly replied, "I always do this. Didn't you know?" And then left. I don't know if she'll stop, but her face of mixed disgust and horror made it worth it. Story 5. I had a party at my house last night. I have this antique slot machine from the 1940s that's in spotless and working condition in my living room. My step-grandma was a showgirl, and she got it while dating a guy who worked in the counting room before meeting my grandpa. Over the years, people have played it and won maybe a few quarters here and there, maybe a maximum of $1.50 at a time. As far as I know, the jackpot was never hit. There was probably about $700 in the jackpot reserve that had built up over the years. I'd never bothered to have it cleaned out since it seemed like a fun novelty. With that said, a friend's friend hit the jackpot last night. I was floored when he legit thought he could keep my $700. His argument was that he'd been playing with his own money, and I would have kept his quarters. My argument was that I'd be happy to give him his quarters back if he'd ask, but I'm not a casino. While I'm not destitute, I can't afford to give someone $700. The argument caused the party to end right then. And there, one of my best guy friends basically told the guy he'd be in real trouble if he tried to leave with the money. But the guy left, threatening to come back with the police and sue me in small claims court. I have no idea if that was realistic, but no police came back. Was I the jerk for not letting him keep the money? I'm sharing this post because many people argue both sides, with the original poster being voted the jerk in the end. This person says, "You are the jerk. You left the money in the machine, knowing people might win some of it. You were perfectly fine letting people use it as though it were real and keeping their money if they didn't win, letting the jackpot build. Now that someone actually won, you don't want it to be real anymore." This person says, "I totally expected to see not the jerk, and I was so surprised. It's in his own home. It's a fun novelty item passed down by his grandparents. If I went into someone's home, I would never assume I could win money off their stuff. I would play a few quarters for fun. It's crazy how entitled these people are." In my opinion, the guy who wanted to take me to small claims court is over the top. If I won that crazy amount at someone's house, I don't know if I could take it, even if it were given to me. But let me know what you think. Who thinks I should pay out?